the legendary and heroic leaders of Vietnam. 14 great figures in Vietnamese history. Throughout its long and storied history, Vietnam has been shaped by the remarkable leadership of its kings, queens, and military heroes. These figures, from the legendary Hung kings to the modern revolutionary leader Ho Chi Minh, have left an indelible mark on the nation's identity and legacy. This essay explores the lives and contributions of 14 of these great figures, who played pivotal roles in shaping Vietnamese history. The story of Vietnam begins with Hung Vuong, the title given to the kings of the Hong Bong Dynasty, which is believed to have been established around 2879 BC. According to legend, the first Hung king was the son of Lac Long Quan, a dragon lord, and O Co, a fairy princess. The Hung kings are credited with founding the first Vietnamese state, Van Lang, and establishing the capital at Phong Chau, modern-day Po Do province. Under the rule of the Hung kings, Vietnam began to develop its own cultural identity. They introduced wet rice cultivation, which became the cornerstone of the Vietnamese economy and society. The Hung kings also established a system of governance that balanced the power between the king and local leaders, allowing for a relatively stable and prosperous society. The legacy of the Hung kings is celebrated annually on the 10th day of the third lunar month during the Hung Kings Festival, a time when the Vietnamese people pay homage to their ancestors and remember the origins of their nation. The Trung sisters, Trung Trac and Trung Nhi, were two of the most famous heroines in Vietnamese history. They led the first major rebellion against Chinese rule in AD 40, just a few decades after the Han Dynasty had annexed the region. The sisters were daughters of a local lord and were well educated in the martial arts, a rare privilege for women in that era. When the Chinese governor Dinh murdered Trung Trac's husband, Tsach, the sisters raised an army and led a revolt against the Chinese. Their rebellion was successful, and they established an independent state, with Trung Trac declaring herself queen. However, their rule was short-lived. The Chinese sent a large army to retake the territory, and the Trung sisters were eventually defeated. Rather than surrender, they chose to commit suicide, cementing their legacy as symbols of resistance and patriotism. The story of the Trung sisters continues to inspire Vietnamese people, especially women, as icons of courage and national pride. Lai Nam Da, born Lai Bi, was a founder of the early Lai Dynasty and the first to declare himself emperor of an independent Vietnamese state. Born in AD 503, Lai Bi rose to prominence during a time when Vietnam was under the control of the Liang Dynasty of China. A skilled military leader, Lai Bi led a successful rebellion against the Chinese in AD 541, driving them out of the region. In AD 544, Lai Bi declared himself Lai Nam Da, emperor of the southern country, and established the kingdom of Van Xuan, with its capital at Long Bien, modern-day Hanoi. He is credited with laying the foundations for Vietnamese independence and governance. Lai Nam Da's reign was marked by efforts to build a strong and unified state, but his rule was challenged by internal dissent and external threats. After several years of resistance, he was forced to abdicate, and his successor continued the fight for independence. Lai Nam Da's legacy as the first emperor of Vietnam remains a significant chapter in the country's history. Ngo Nguyen is one of the most revered figures in Vietnamese history for his victory at the Battle of Bac Dang River in 938, which marked the end of over 1,000 years of Chinese domination. Born in 897, Ngo Nguyen rose through the ranks as a military leader during a turbulent period when various local warlords vied for power. In 938, when the Southern Han Dynasty attempted to reassert Chinese control over Vietnam, Ngo Nguyen employed a brilliant military strategy to defeat the invaders. He lured the Chinese fleet into the Bac Dang River during high tide, and then used wooden stakes embedded in the riverbed to trap and destroy the enemy's ships as the tide receded. This decisive victory established Ngo Nguyen as the ruler of an independent Vietnam and is considered one of the greatest military triumphs in Vietnamese history. Ngo Nguyen's reign was brief, lasting only until his death in 944, but his victory at Bac Dang River ensured that Vietnam would remain independent from China for centuries to come. His legacy as the leader who restored Vietnam's sovereignty is celebrated in Vietnamese history and folklore. Dinh Bo Linh, born in 924, was the first ruler to unify Vietnam after the collapse of the Tang dynasty's control over the region. Known for his intelligence and military prowess, Dinh Bo Linh rose to power during a time of chaos, known as the period of the 12 warlords, when the country was divided among competing warlords. Through a combination of military skill and strategic alliances, Dinh Bo Linh defeated his rivals and established the Dinh Dynasty in 968, declaring himself Emperor Dinh Tien Hong. He named his kingdom Dai Co Viet and established the capital at Hoa Lu in modern-day Ninh Ben province. His reign was marked by efforts to consolidate power, strengthen the central government, and establish a legal code to govern the country. Dinh Tien Hong's unification of Vietnam laid the foundation for a centralized state, which was crucial for the country's long-term stability and development. His reign was relatively short, ending with his assassination in 979, but his contributions to Vietnamese statehood are still remembered and honored today. Lu Hon, also known as Lu Dai Han, was a military commander who became the first emperor of the early Lu dynasty. Born in 941, Lu Hon rose to prominence as a general under Emperor Dinh Tien Hong. After the assassination of Dinh Tien Hong and his son, Lu Hon took control of the government and was crowned emperor in 980. One of the most significant achievements of Lu Hon's reign was a successful defense of Vietnam against the Song dynasty's invasion in 981. Using a combination of guerrilla tactics and fortified defenses, Lu Hon's forces repelled the Chinese invaders, securing Vietnam's independence and sovereignty. His victory reinforced the idea that Vietnam could resist even the most powerful external threats. Lu Hon's reign was also marked by efforts to improve agriculture, promote Buddhism, and strengthen the central government. He ruled until his death in 1005, and his successful defense of Vietnam earned him a lasting place in Vietnamese history as a skilled and determined leader. Lai Tsong Yuan, also known as Lai Tai Tu, was the founder of the Lai Dynasty, one of the most enduring and prosperous dynasties in Vietnamese history. Born in 974, Lai Tsong Yuan was a talented and well-educated official who served under the later Lu dynasty. In 1009, after the death of the last Lu emperor, Lai Tsong Yuan was chosen by the court to become the new emperor. Lai Tai Tu is best known for his decision to move the capital from Hoa Lu to Tang Long, modern-day Hanoi, in 1010, a move that reflected his vision for a strong and stable state. The new capital, located in the fertile Red River Delta, became the political, cultural, and economic center of Vietnam for centuries. During his reign, Lai Tai Tu implemented policies to promote Buddhism, support the development of agriculture, and strengthen the central government. His reign marked the beginning of a long period of stability and prosperity in Vietnam, during which the country flourished culturally and economically. Lai Tai Tu's legacy as a visionary leader and founder of the Lai Dynasty is celebrated as one of the most important chapters in Vietnamese history. Lai Thuong Kiet, born in 1019, was one of the greatest military leaders in Vietnamese history, serving under the Lai Dynasty. He is best known for his successful campaigns against the Song Dynasty and the Kampa Kingdom, which secured Vietnam's independence and territorial integrity. In 1075, anticipating a Chinese invasion, Lai Thuong Kiet led a preemptive strike against the Song Dynasty's forces, attacking their bases in southern China. This bold move disrupted the Chinese invasion plans and forced them to retreat. The following year, when the Chinese launched a counterattack, Lai Thuong Kiet employed a brilliant defensive strategy, using fortified positions along the Kaw River to repel the invaders. Lai Thuong Kiet is also credited with composing one of the earliest known Vietnamese poems, Nam Quoc Sun Ha, Mountains and Rivers of the Southern Country, which is considered a declaration of Vietnamese sovereignty. His military successes and his contributions to Vietnamese literature and culture have earned him a revered place in Vietnamese history as a defender of the nation. Tran Nhan Tong, born in 1258, was the third emperor of the Tran Dynasty and is remembered as both a wise ruler and a devout Buddhist philosopher. His reign was marked by significant military victories, particularly against the Mongol invasions, as well as efforts to promote Buddhism and social harmony in Vietnam. Tran Nan Tong ascended to the throne in 1278, during a time when the Mongol Empire was expanding its influence across Asia. In 1284 and 1288, the Mongols launched 2 invasions of Vietnam, but under the leadership of Tran Nan Tong and his generals, including Tran Hung Dao, the Vietnamese forces successfully repelled the invaders. After securing Vietnam's independence, Tran Nan Tong abdicated the throne in 1293 and became a Buddhist monk, dedicating his life to spreading the teachings of Buddhism and promoting peace. He founded the Truc Lam Zen sect, which became a major school of Vietnamese Buddhism. Tran Nan Tong's legacy as both a philosopher king and a military leader has left a lasting impact on Vietnamese history and culture. Tran Hung Dao, born in 1228 as Tran Quoc Tuan, is one of the most celebrated military leaders in Vietnamese history. He is best known for his role in defeating the Mongol invasions during the reign of his cousin, Emperor Tran Nan Tong. Tran Hung Dao's greatest military achievements came during the Mongol invasions of 1284 and 1288. He employed a combination of guerrilla tactics, scorched earth policies, and strategic retreats to wear down the Mongol forces. His most famous victory came at the Battle of Bac Dang River in 1288, where he used a tactic similar to that of No Nguyen nearly 350 years earlier, trapping and destroying the Mongol fleet in the river's narrow passages. Tran Hung Dao's leadership and military genius not only secured Vietnam's independence, but also solidified his reputation as a national hero. He is revered as a symbol of Vietnamese resistance and patriotism, and his legacy continues to inspire generations of Vietnamese people. Lô Loi, born in 1385, was the founder of the later Le Dynasty and the leader of the Lam Son Uprising, which successfully expelled the Ming Dynasty from Vietnam. Lô Loi is one of the most important figures in Vietnamese history, known for his determination, military skill, and dedication to Vietnamese independence. In 1418, Lô Loi led a rebellion against the Ming occupation, which had been imposed after the fall of the Ho Dynasty. For nearly a decade, Lô Loi and his followers waged a guerrilla war against the Ming forces, gradually gaining strength and support from the Vietnamese people. In 1427, after a series of decisive victories, the Ming army was forced to retreat, and Lô Loi was proclaimed emperor, establishing the later Le Dynasty. Lô Loi's reign marked the beginning of a long period of peace and prosperity in Vietnam. He implemented reforms to strengthen the central government, promote agriculture, and reduce the burden of taxation on the peasantry. His victory over the Ming invaders and his efforts to rebuild the country earned him a lasting place in Vietnamese history as a national hero and a symbol of resilience and determination. Nguyen Tre, born in 1380, was a scholar, poet, and strategist who played a key role in the success of the Lam Son Uprising and the establishment of the later Le Dynasty. He is remembered as one of Vietnam's greatest intellectuals and a patriotic figure who dedicated his life to the service of his country. As a close advisor to Lô Loi, Nguyen Tre provided strategic guidance and diplomatic skills that were crucial to the success of the rebellion against the Ming occupation. He is best known for his role in drafting the Ben No Dai Sao, Proclamation of Victory over the Wu, a powerful declaration of Vietnam's independence and sovereignty that is considered one of the most important documents in Vietnamese history. Nguyen Tre's contributions to Vietnamese literature and philosophy are also significant. He was a prolific writer, and his works, including poetry and essays, continue to be studied and revered in Vietnam. Despite his eventual execution in 1442 under tragic circumstances, Nguyen Tre's legacy as a scholar patriot remains an integral part of Vietnam's cultural heritage. Quang Trung, also known as Nguyen Hue, born in 1753, was one of the most brilliant military leaders in Vietnamese history and the second emperor of the Tay Son dynasty. He is best known for his stunning victory over the Qing dynasty's invasion in 1789, which secured Vietnam's independence and sovereignty. Quang Trung rose to power during a time of political instability and civil war in Vietnam as one of the leaders of the Tay Son Rebellion. He played a key role in overthrowing the ruling Dynasty and unifying the country. In 1788, when the Qing Dynasty invaded Vietnam in support of the deposed Liu Emperor, Quang Trung launched a surprise attack during the Tet Lunar New Year, defeating the Qing forces in the Battle of Nha Poi Dong. Quang Trung's victory over the Qing invaders is considered one of the greatest military achievements in Vietnamese history. His reign was marked by efforts to reform the administration, promote education, and strengthen the military. Unfortunately, his sudden death in 1792 cut short his plans for further reforms and modernization. Despite his brief reign, Quang Trung's legacy as a military genius and a unifier of Vietnam continues to be celebrated. Ho Chi Minh, Nguyen Sinh Cung, born in 1890, is perhaps the most iconic figure in modern Vietnamese history. As the leader of the Vietnamese independence movement, Ho Chi Minh played a crucial role in the struggle for freedom from colonial rule and the establishment of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. After spending many years abroad, studying and working in various countries, Ho Chi Minh returned to Vietnam in 1941 to lead the Viet Minh, a coalition of nationalist and communist forces fighting for independence from French colonial rule. In 1945, following Japan's surrender at the end of World War II, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam's independence, and the Democratic Republic of Vietnam was established with Ho as its president. Ho Chi Minh's leadership during the First Indochina War against France and the subsequent Vietnam War against the United States was instrumental in securing Vietnam's independence and reunification. He is revered as the father of modern Vietnam and a symbol of national unity, resilience, and determination. His legacy continues to influence Vietnam's political and social landscape, and his image is omnipresent in the country's public spaces.